The internet can be a very informative and entertaining resource, but there are also some parts of the internet that can be very creepy and disturbing. Thousands of pages are dedicated to missing people, strange, unidentified creatures, hauntings, and weird footage that cannot be explained. Number 10. TikTok is one of the most popular social platforms on the internet today, and while most of the site contains videos with lighter subject matter, some accounts deal with the paranormal, unexplained mysteries, and missing people among other mysteries. There are also TikTokers who claim to be from the future, and videos uploaded by conspiracy theorists who use the platform to voice their opinions on the state of the world and the conspiracies that they think need to be heard. In 2024, one TikToker called Tristan Galindo took to his page to ask his 356,000 followers about such a conspiracy theorist who has seemingly vanished, though he couldn't remember his name since he hadn't posted anything to the site for years. He stated that he first stumbled across the conspiracy theorist's page while the world was in lockdown thanks to the COVID-19 pandemic, and that at that time he had millions of followers on his page. He added that he used to have accounts on several social media sites, such as YouTube and Facebook, but one day he suddenly deleted all of his accounts except for TikTok. After doing this, he posted to TikTok, apologizing to his followers and leaving a cryptic message in which he stated that they should be prepared for what was to come in the days that followed, and up until 2026. That same day, he uploaded as many as 70 or 80 videos, according to Tristan, and in each one, he tried to explain what he was so concerned about. He claimed to have met informants that he called uppers, who belonged to a group that helped him become famous on social media platforms, and he was supplied with information to spread through his channels. He was told to post about this information for 2 months before deleting all but one of his accounts. Tristan stated that all of the man's claims that he made in those 2 months have come true, including one that warned that the stars, by which it's assumed he meant certain celebrities, would fall. Tristan reached out to his followers in an attempt to track the man's videos down, since he wanted to rewatch them to see how accurate his predictions really were. He stated that he remembered the man wearing a white t-shirt and a hat, but his most striking feature was his eyes, since one had 2 colors while the other was simply brown. Supplying further clues, Tristan added that in the videos, the man could be seen pacing back and forth in a backyard, and that the fear and concern were clearly visible in his eyes and facial expressions. His videos were met with a slew of comments from people suggesting names of TikTokers who are no longer active, and eventually, Tristan stated that he believed the man's username to be MKUltraMK, a username that belonged to a man named Marcus D. King. However, no amount of searching brought him any closer to the videos he was searching for, and it seemed like he'd simply disappeared off the internet altogether. There were also suggestions that he might be thinking of a TikToker called Mo Othman, another conspiracy theorist who suddenly stopped posting one day. But for now, the man's identity remains unknown, and will likely have to wait until 2026 to see if he ever reemerges as promised. Number 9. It must be a heart-wrenching experience to stumble across the belongings of someone who's been reported missing, especially if they're located in an area that person would never normally go, since this usually suggests something untoward has taken place. This is exactly what happened in May of 2023, 2 years after 36-year-old Jordan Boone mysteriously vanished. Since his disappearance, his sister Shelby has been searching for him. She stated that at the time he went missing, he was struggling with mental health issues, and hence his family was very worried about his well-being. She revealed that in 2018, Jordan was suffering from psychosis as a result of a manic episode, during which he believed that certain normal events had a deeper meaning. He would suffer from religious delusions, becoming excessively excited and verbal, and stated that he was hearing voices while adding that he felt restless and that he was suffering from memory loss. He also told some of his friends and family that he needed to get out of California, since he believed that when he did so, he could find a path to the other side of the world, where he would be able to see his daughter. Worryingly, he told Shelby that he knew where to go, since her location had been revealed to him by the music that he was listening to. On the 1st of August, 2021, he traveled to the San Rafael Swell in Utah, and 2 days later, he was picked up by someone who was driving an ATV in the area. He was also checked on by EMTs and was found to be severely dehydrated, and it was reported that he was wearing a wetsuit. He was then escorted to the Village Inn Hotel, which is located in Huntington, but by the following morning he'd vanished. A witness reported that she'd spoken to him on the 4th of August at a store called BK's Stop and Shop, after which he allegedly stole a garbage truck. He then left the truck in Carbon County, after which he stole a Jeep Renegade. That same day, he was seen at a Verizon store in Moab, where he attempted to buy a cell phone, and during that time he's said to have gotten into an argument with an unknown man. The Jeep would eventually be located in Cisco, but Jordan was nowhere to be found. On the 16th of August, he spoke to someone at a co-op country store in Colorado, and the following week he was spotted in Telluride. This was the last time that anyone saw Jordan, and Shelby was desperate to find him. Then, on the 22nd of May, 2023, a TikToker named Rye of the Desert posted a video to their account in which they revealed that they'd stumbled across some strange items in the San Rafael swell. These included a backpack, poncho, jacket, and a guitar that looked like they'd been lying out in the sun for quite some time, since they'd become bleached by the sun. Shelby saw the video and was able to confirm that all of these items belonged to her brother. On the 30th of May, they found a few more of Jordan's belongings, including his watch and phone that had been overlooked, when an initial search was carried out by the police. Jordan was later determined to have succumbed to the elements, but no one knows why he decided to venture into the desert on his own without sufficient supplies, and why he decided to get rid of his phone since this was the only way that he could reach out for help. Number 8. Sweet Anita is a famous UK Twitch streamer who, despite her face being very familiar with her fans, has never divulged her real name or location, which makes it all the more disconcerting to learn that she once went through an ordeal during which she was being stalked by an obsessed fan. In April of 2020, she revealed during a live stream on her channel that a man had been stalking her for several months, and that he'd even approached her house, going as far as to sleep in her backyard. While she was out shopping one day, the man tried to approach her, and she was able to flee when he was detained by some of the area's shopkeepers. She added that he'd been waiting outside her house when she went outside that day, and then followed her all the way to the shops. Here, he waited outside one of the stores, and when she stepped out, she spotted him. She tried to reason with him and asked whether he had a weapon, but she received no reply from him. She then asked whether he would allow her to walk home, to which he said he would. But as soon as she walked away, he tried to chase after her, prompting some of the shopkeepers to get involved. But this was not her first interaction with the man. She also revealed that on one occasion, he'd gone as far as to physically assault her, though she didn't go into any further detail regarding this incident. At one point, the man was detained by the police, and he was found to be carrying a sharpened blade, but he was released after a statement about the assault was taken, and all of Anita's evidence, which included recordings, screenshots, and a witness statement, were shared with officers despite the man making a full confession. As a result, she decided to get a restraining order against him, since she was worried that he might harm her, and this resulted in the stalker being arrested, charged, and banned from her hometown. The man was given a 2-month suspended sentence, but this seemingly made very little difference as the man continued to interfere with her life, resulting in yet another police report being filed. She shared some of the distressing messages that he had sent her, one of which stated that he planned to end her life soon. Anita was growing ever more frustrated with the response from police, as the man still wasn't behind bars, and she felt that nothing was being done about his alarming behavior, since they'd stopped responding when she called them. On one occasion, he messaged her saying that he was on his way to her house and that he would be there to end her life in 15 minutes, but when she called for assistance, the police failed to show up. She felt that this was unfair treatment, since she was now left to fend for herself against a man who clearly had nefarious intentions, and who had stated on more than one occasion that he wanted to end her life. It isn't known why this man wanted to harm her, since he claimed to be her fan. Anita continues to stream on Twitch, and to this day, her stalker's identity has not been revealed to the public. Number 7. In 2017, listeners in Portland who tuned their radios to 97.6 FM were met by something they didn't expect. A series of strange sounds that left them baffled and confused, since this is usually the frequency of a radio station. One user took to the platform and asked whether anyone else was hearing the same sounds that they were, and it was suggested by some commenters that two radio station frequencies had somehow interfered with each other. These mysterious sounds were heard at that frequency from October 2017 to June of 2018. Listeners described the sounds as, at times, sounding like a series of buzzes and beeps, followed by strange voices. Some speculated that the voices were the recordings of a John F. Kennedy speech, though some also heard what they thought were the voices of Walter Cronkite and Martin Luther King, though they couldn't be certain. On the 26th of October 2017, a video was uploaded to YouTube after a user named Savannah S. recorded some of the audio, which sounded like a siren sound being played on a continuous loop. During parts of the video, it sounds as if music is being played at the same time, but the song is impossible to identify thanks to the loud noise being played over it. Further in the recording, a sound similar to the beeps from hospital machinery can be heard. Then a voice started reading out letters and numbers. It could be heard saying, quote, KZRYLP, followed by the word Portland, after which the disconcerting sounds returned and continued to be played on a loop. In a video posted by a user named Smudge, roaring sounds like those from a plane could be heard, and they could be heard discussing it with a woman while seated in their car, with the woman stating that these sounds happened at different times of the day. The same beeping and buzzing from the first video can also be heard. Then they suddenly hear a man's voice talking about the Apollo 11 mission, stating that they're ready and have just 4 minutes to go. This is believed to be the CBS broadcast of that mission's takeoff. The broadcast continues, describing the preparations that were made before the launch, and eventually the countdown for takeoff begins. A man can be heard describing how the building is shaking thanks to the takeoff, while the pair in the car continue to listen intently, clearly baffled. This caused many people to wonder whether this may be a numbers station, similar to others that have been reported all over the world, and that have been speculated to be linked to espionage and other similar activities that require information to be relayed secretly, and hence in code. An investigation by members of the public revealed that the 97.6 frequency was licensed to Community Alliance of Tenants, which is a non-profit organization that deals with low-income housing, though it's unclear whether they were involved, and if so, why. Others speculated that the station may have been hacked at some point, but others pointed out that if this were the case, the station would certainly have been notified of the strange sounds, and they would have stopped broadcasting immediately. Since the sounds were being played at that frequency for 4 months, it's unlikely that a hacker was responsible. It's been suggested that this was a publicity stunt to gain more listeners, but the reality is that we don't know who was responsible for the broadcast, and since the sounds have now completely disappeared, we probably never will. Number 6. Camping is a great way to spend some quality time with family and friends while enjoying the beauty of the outdoors. It affords people plenty of exercise and fresh air, while also challenging us to step out of the comfort zone of our homes to take on the outdoors. Many of us will have spent nights around a campfire, singing camping songs and roasting marshmallows over the campfire. Many would also have taken part in the tradition of telling ghost stories that are all the more frightening while staying in the darkness of the woods, surrounded by wild animals and shadows. But some people will tell you that camping isn't for the faint of heart. Thousands of people have reported seeing and hearing inexplicable things while out in the woods, such as disembodied footsteps, voices that seem to originate out of thin air, and creatures that seemingly shouldn't exist. Others have stated that they've had encounters with the spirits of people who passed away long ago. And while these accounts differ on a lot of details, they all have one thing in common: the fact that they left witnesses utterly terrified. Not many people would venture back into the wild at night after having one of these eerie encounters. But in some cases, campers don't realize that they've had such an encounter until they review photos and footage of their trip. This is what happened to a TikToker named Erica Perry, who posted a creepy and disconcerting video to TikTok, which she recorded while sitting next to a campfire with some friends one night. In the clip, Erica has her camera pointed at a dog named Aliko that's standing a few feet away, and she's since noted, along with some of her followers, that it seems as though the dog is looking at something that they can't see. She then pans her camera to the right, revealing a stack of logs and the campfire. A man can be seen attending to the fire, and she then pans up to the sky and back down again, showing Aliko still staring into the distance while snow falls around them. At first, this seemed like any other camping video that can be found on the internet, but before uploading it to her TikTok account, Erica reviewed the footage, and what she saw sent shivers down her spine. While the beginning of the video doesn't show anything strange other than the dog's behavior, it's when she pans the camera to the right that things get a little strange. Just as the campfire comes into view, we can see smoke billowing out toward the stack of logs, and in the background, a wisp of smoke seems to travel in the opposite direction. Upon closer inspection, Erica realized that this wisp seemed to have human features, and it's been suggested that she caught a ghost on camera, just as it raced towards the fire before suddenly disappearing. Commenters were quick to add that Aliko seemed to spot the spirit first, and could be seen following it with its gaze before it appeared. Others added that the logs inside the fire pit seemed to fall down at the very moment that the apparition seemed to run into the fire, and hence they're convinced that this is indeed a ghost that was caught on camera. Others have suggested that this is merely smoke that was caught in a breeze, or that it's the result of a lens flare, but many more were adamant that this was a paranormal event. Number 5. The ocean is full of mysterious and rare creatures that we know very little about, despite centuries of research having been done on the topic. The oceans are so vast and deep that there are undoubtedly many species that have not been discovered yet, that live at the depths that we're just unable to reach. In the past, sailors have reported sightings of massive sea creatures, such as serpents that could bring down a ship and all of its cargo in a matter of minutes. Though these accounts are now dismissed in modern times, since these creatures are very unlikely to actually exist. But now and then, a creature washes ashore on a beach somewhere in the world that leaves experts and internet users baffled. There have been reports of creatures that look like hybrids between large fish and other land-dwelling mammals that washed ashore, as well as other carcasses that have never been identified. In most of these cases, the mystery is eventually solved when it's discovered that the creature merely looks unnatural, since it's been deceased in the water for a long time, or when it's found to be a land animal that somehow ended up in the water before being brought back to land by the waves. But there are some cases that have never been solved, as those creatures have never been positively identified, which comes as no surprise to most people, since there are large sections of the ocean that have not been explored as of yet. One such incident took place in July of 2023, when a set of bones washed ashore on a beach in Keppel Sands, Queensland, Australia. And after photos of the remains were posted to Facebook, the internet was sent into a frenzy of debate and speculation. The photos were published by the Marine Biology Facebook group, but the story was quickly picked up by media outlets thanks to the creature's strange and otherworldly appearance. The woman who originally stumbled upon the remains, 34-year-old Bobby Lee Oates, stated that she was taken aback by their appearance, since they seemed to resemble the bones of a mermaid. She added that she and her companions were driving along the beach in search of a camping spot, and at first they didn't think much of the discovery when they first saw it, but then noticed that it had a strange skull that looked a lot like that of a human. This stopped them in their tracks, and they decided to take a few photos, which she then uploaded to the Facebook page. She described the creature as being about 6 feet long, with an elongated jawline and hair that she described as similar to that of a cow or kangaroo. Added to that was what looked like a tail or some kind of limb that they couldn't identify, and she was left shocked after studying it more closely, since she'd never seen anything like it before and was struggling to understand what she was looking at. Specialists have since studied the photos but were unable to identify it. They merely stated that it was probably some kind of marine mammal, such as a cetacean, but were unable to provide any further details since the creature was so unusual. Internet users discussed whether this could really be a mermaid that was found, or whether it could be a creature that we simply haven't seen before, but no solid answers have been found, and the creature remains unidentified. Number 4. Hurricane Harvey started as a tropical storm in 2017. But before long, it had gathered strength, and by the time it made landfall in Texas on the 25th of August, it had been reclassified as a Category 4 hurricane. It would make landfall again in Louisiana on the 30th of August, before eventually merging with another tropical storm and eventually fading away. But before it dissipated, it had caused a massive amount of damage. More than 300,000 buildings were either badly damaged or destroyed altogether, and as many as 500,000 vehicles were rendered useless in the Texas area alone. It resulted in 53 tornadoes that were recorded across 6 different states, ultimately causing up to $125 billion worth of damage, though this figure was estimated to possibly be as high as $150 billion. Many people were left stranded without homes and had to find alternate shelters until their communities could be rebuilt, which would take some time. But while people were scrambling to put their lives back together, someone on the internet decided that this would be the perfect time for a hoax, and it resulted in many people being fooled. A photo was uploaded to Twitter, now known as X, showing a shark swimming down a flooded highway, and according to the uploader, it was taken in the Houston area. This caused panic among internet users who were shocked at the revelation, who speculated about the other creatures that may have been washed ashore along with it. The photo was uploaded by a user called Jegit, though it's thought that they weren't the photo's creator, and many people noted that it seemingly was taken from inside a car, specifically the driver's side. The image quickly went viral, receiving more than 35,000 likes and nearly 30,000 retweets shortly after being posted. Since many areas were flooded, even worse than the freeway in the image, people were wary about what may be lurking in the water in their own areas, and soon speculation ran rife across the internet. While many people refused to believe that the photo was real, many others were convinced that a shark had somehow made it onto the highway by swimming through the murky floodwaters. But they were soon reassured that this image was in no way real. Some people pointed out that the image had been used before, the first time being in 2011, when another hurricane called Irene wreaked havoc in Puerto Rico. In that instance, the shark was shown swimming on a highway alongside someone's SUV, but it was soon found to be fake, though it wasn't certain why someone would want to spread such misinformation during a time when people are fighting for their own survival. The same image re-emerged again the following year when it was uploaded to another social media site, where users claimed that a shark was spotted swimming on a highway in New Jersey in the aftermath of Hurricane Sandy. What most people struggle to understand is why someone would upload the image during a tragic event that affected thousands of people who were already dealing with a lot of stress and loss. The original uploader has never been identified. Their identity remains a mystery, and chances are that this isn't the last time that this image will be used to fool internet users. Number 3. A quick internet search for time travel mysteries will return thousands of results of people who claim that they've either traveled forward or backward in time. These stories have become increasingly popular among internet users in the last few years, as more people than ever are researching the subject thanks to these claims. One of the most famous is a man who calls himself John Teeter. He claimed to be from the year 2036 and traveled back to the early 2000s as a survivor of a nuclear attack that took place during the Civil War. He further added that he needed to construct a machine called a gravity distortion system, which had been worked on by his grandfather in 1975. He claimed that he only stopped off in the 2000s to find a certain part that he needed, before continuing on to 1975 to meet up with his grandfather to complete the machine's construction. Many internet users were instantly on the edges of their seats as they awaited updates from John Teeter, with many reading through his posts with a fine-toothed comb to look for clues to his real identity. While most people took his claims as nothing more than a hoax, many others were convinced that he really was a time traveler. But most people now believe that a lawyer living in Florida was responsible for the prank. There are also hundreds of vintage photos that seem to show people from that era wearing modern clothes such as sunglasses or t-shirts, or using modern devices that didn't exist at the time, resulting in many people believing that time travel is possible or will eventually become a reality. One such image was taken in 1943 in Iceland, 2 years before the end of the Second World War, and it's left people baffled thanks to one man that was captured in the image. The photo shows a ton of people wandering about on pavement next to a busy street, and at first glance, nothing seems out of place. But a few eagle-eyed internet users spotted something in the image that they struggled to explain. In the very center of the image is a man wearing a light-colored trench coat who can be seen leaning against a pillar while looking in the direction of the photographer, and he seems to be talking to someone on a cell phone that's held up to his right ear. None of the people around him seemed to be taking any notice of what would have been truly strange behavior at the time, leading many people to believe that this is a misconception and that he's probably just scratching his ear or listening to see if his watch is still working. But this has done little to stem the flow of speculation among internet users, since cell phones would only be made available for public use in 1973. Since these cell phones were only released in 1973, the image seems inexplicable. Many people pointed out that the image is a rather blurry one, and hence it's impossible to see what the man is holding in his hand, if he's holding anything at all. But as is the way with the internet, the time traveler theory quickly gained traction, and it was shared far and wide. They claimed that he was wearing clothing that didn't fit in with the era, including his cap and scarf. Since we don't know who the man is or who the photographer was, we'll likely never get a definitive answer. Number 2. During the mid-2000s, a farmer from Victoria, Australia, informed his neighbors that something had been decimating his herd of sheep during the night. But he had no idea what kind of creature could so easily drag a full-grown sheep away. The man seemed to know more than he was letting on, and he eventually revealed what he had seen, but he asked his neighbors not to tell anyone, since he was worried that he may be ridiculed. He stated that he had seen a massive black cat, similar to a panther, in the area. He only confessed to the sighting after his neighbor told him that while he was driving his children to the bus stop, they saw the same feline crossing the road, much to their shock and disbelief. His neighbor stated that it reminded him of a puma. He was certain that it wasn't a dog or a normal household cat, since it was far too large, but he was at a loss as to how the creature could have gotten there, and he never saw it again. This was, however, not the first time that this creature had been seen in the area. People have reported sightings since the early 1800s, but no one had been able to capture one or even provide solid evidence that one existed, and hence many people thought it was either a figment of their imagination or some other more common animal. But there were a few theories that looked to explain how a large cat could end up in the area. Some people stated that members of the American military were responsible, since they brought puma cubs to the country as mascots. They were eventually released into the wild while still cubs, and it's thought that they may have survived, growing into the massive beasts that have been spotted here from time to time, but this has never been proven. These tales were seen by many as mere folklore until recently, when a video taken by Angus James, a prospector, started making the rounds on the internet, and it's convinced many people that the cat really is still roaming the countryside. James was using his metal detector to look for nuggets of gold in the area when he realized a massive black cat that he describes as a panther was walking in the grass a short distance away from where he was standing. He noted that it had very heavy footfall, leading him to believe that it was a very large cat, and he also stated that it had an unusually long tail. The video soon went viral, receiving more than 1.2 million views since it was uploaded to James's social media account, and it's taken many people by surprise. Some people remained skeptical, though, and accused James of doctoring the footage, but he quickly shut these claims down by stating that he doesn't possess the computer skills needed to create such a fake video. Others replied that they had seen similar cats in other parts of Australia. Others suggested that it could be a feral cat that has somehow had more than its fill to eat, since silos could be seen in the background, and they're known to attract mice and rats. But it was quickly pointed out that the cat seemed much too large to just be a normal cat. The creature quickly disappeared after the video was recorded, and at present, it isn't known whether this really is a panther or where it is now. Number 1. 29-year-old Brandy Hope Knipe mysteriously disappeared from Mocksville, North Carolina on the 6th of May 2006, and since then, her sister, Lee Scoggin, has been searching for her. She's recently taken to TikTok with details about Brandy's disappearance, and is hopeful that someone will come forward with useful information. In the TikTok video, she can be seen holding up Brandy's missing person flyer, and she states that this is all her family has left of the missing woman. She adds that her sister didn't simply disappear, but seemed to have vanished off the face of the earth. She then states that her sister's case isn't very well known because people simply aren't talking about it, likely because it happened so long ago. But she's now decided to make the internet users aware of the case in hopes that someone will remember something from that day. What is known is that Brandy was last seen at her house in Mocksville on the day of her disappearance. She left her house that day but never returned, and she was eventually reported as missing by her family in 2010 when they were unable to contact her. At first, it was suspected that her ex-husband may be responsible, but his house was thoroughly searched and no evidence indicating foul play was found, though it should be noted that Brandy had been missing for 4 years by this point. Lane notes that in her video, investigators tore up the house's floorboards during their search, and luminol, which is used to find biological material that's been cleaned up, was used on the entire interior of the building, but nothing was found. Adding more mystery to the case is the fact that her car, a 4-door Buick sedan, has never been found, and investigators believe that this may be a vital clue in determining what happened to her. Her bank accounts have been monitored, but they haven't seen any activity, and her social security number hasn't provided any clues. It should also be noted that Brandy and her 2 sisters lived in a lake house owned by an unnamed man at one point, and this house has also been mentioned in the investigation. But since the address isn't known, it hasn't been searched. In her video, Leigh states that there's been speculation that Brandy was abducted and taken across international borders, but facial recognition technology has been used to look for her, after her face was scanned into the system in all 50 states, and it seems likely that she never crossed any of these borders. Her video was met with an overwhelming response, with people offering to help or directing her to helpful organizations that deal with missing person cold cases. Since Brandy's vehicle has never been found, it's been suggested that she might have gotten into an accident in a remote area on the day that she vanished. Others think that her ex-husband may actually be responsible, but since so much time has passed, there would be no way of proving this theory. Leigh has asked anyone with information to come forward by contacting the Davie County Sheriff's Office at 336-751-5547, or the North Carolina Bureau of Investigation at 800-334-3000. Brandy is described as having brown hair and brown eyes. At the time, she stood around 5 foot 7 inches tall and weighed between 115 and 145 pounds. Unfortunately, it isn't known what she was wearing before she went missing, but she can be identified by a tattoo of a heart with wings on her right wrist, and another of a rose and dagger on the back of her shoulder. Brandy's nameless case number is MP115436. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you liked this video, be sure to hit that like button. Also, don't forget to subscribe and click that notification bell to keep up to date with all of our future uploads. But my name is Ty Knotts, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.